This is Felicia's Storytime. Please remember to subscribe, like, share and comment. It will really mean a lot to us. Now let's dive in. Once upon a time, there lived a boy named Kelvin. Kelvin was the only child of his parents. He had 4 cousins from his mother's side and 1 cousin from his father's side. His mother's brother had 2 boys, while his mother's sister had 1 boy and 1 girl. That made 4 cousins from his mother's side. His father's sister had only 1 daughter, giving Kelvin 1 cousin from his father's side. From childhood, Kelvin was very curious. He always wanted to know everything. Whenever something happened, he would keep asking questions until he understood it completely. Years passed, and Kelvin grew into a very tall, handsome, charming, and muscular young man. Whenever he walked past, girls would turn around just to look at him. People admired him wherever he went. But Kelvin was not proud. He was generous, kind, hardworking, and good-hearted. The best part was that he never bragged about himself. When Kelvin reached his final year in school, he met a beautiful girl named Nancy. Nancy was the kind of girl who loved being herself. She never begged men for attention. In fact, men were the ones begging her just to get her phone number. One Sunday afternoon, after Nancy returned from church, Kelvin saw her. He looked at his friend Satan and giggled. "I can make her beg for me," Kelvin said confidently. Satan laughed. Later that afternoon, Kelvin approached Nancy. The moment Nancy saw him, she was shocked. She had never seen a man quite like him. Kelvin simply smiled and greeted her calmly. Nancy's friend, Amwa, who was standing beside her, gently pinched her and whispered, "See, fine guy." Nancy refused to show any reaction. She stood her ground, even though deep down, something inside her had begun to crack. She smiled and greeted Kelvin back. The next day, Nancy saw Kelvin sitting alone on a bench, staring at the clouds. She walked slowly toward him and snapped her fingers. Kelvin adjusted his seat, and Nancy sat beside him. For a few seconds, there was silence. Then Nancy broke the silence. "What are you doing here?" Kelvin looked at her once before turning his gaze away. In a low and calm voice, he replied, "Because I love it here." Then he looked at her again. "But why are you here?" Before Nancy could answer, Amwa suddenly appeared. "Nancy, the lecture has started." Nancy stood up, waved at Kelvin, and walked away. But for a long moment, their eyes remained locked on each other. Amwa snapped her fingers again. "Come on." Nancy finally followed her. That night, Amwa sat beside Nancy on her bed. "So, what happened today?" Amwa asked. Nancy looked up. "Like what?" Amwa smiled, the kind of smile that clearly meant, "Tell me the truth." Nancy chuckled. "Don't think like that." Amwa laughed. "You said it yourself." The next day, Nancy returned to the same place where she had seen Kelvin. She sat down and closed her eyes. After some time, she heard a slow, calm, comforting voice. "Open your eyes." Nancy slowly opened her eyes. Kelvin was standing right in front of her, staring directly at her. Nancy quickly stood up and held her purse tightly. Kelvin smiled. "I didn't mean to scare you." Nancy quickly replied, "No, I'm not scared. I'm just hurrying somewhere." Then she walked away. As soon as she left, Kelvin's friend Satan appeared and started laughing. Kelvin looked at him. "What's funny?" Satan was still laughing. She's falling for you." "Falling for me?" Kelvin asked. "Yes, she is. Just look at how nervous she was." "Oh, please stop it," Kelvin replied. 1 week later, Nancy began feeling unusually restless. She smiled at every joke. She stared at the wall for no reason. Sometimes, she laughed even when nobody had said anything funny. Amwa began noticing. One day, she pulled Nancy aside. "What's happening to you?" Amwa asked. "I'm all right," Nancy replied. But Nancy knew something was changing. One day, she found herself laughing with Kelvin. Soon, they started going out together. Sometimes they even walked around campus late in the evening. Before long, the entire campus knew about them. Everyone was confused. Isn't that Nancy? The same Nancy who used to reject every boy. Now she's always laughing with this guy. But Nancy didn't even hear the rumors. She was too busy enjoying her time with Kelvin. Soon, they became very close. Then things started moving quickly. Kelvin took Nancy to meet his family, and they immediately loved her. Nancy loved Kelvin too. Before anyone could believe how quickly everything had happened, they were already preparing for their wedding. One day, Amwa called Nancy. "Nancy, just 3 years ago, you hated boys. And now you're getting married. This is fast." Nancy sat down and laughed. "My sister, even I don't know how it happened. But when you're in love, Sometimes you don't even realize how quickly everything is moving. Amwa nodded. You're right. Within a few days, Nancy and Kelvin got married. They became husband and wife. Soon afterward, they went on their honeymoon and eventually returned home. 3 years passed, but Nancy still had no child. Not even one. Meanwhile, her friend Amwa had given birth to 2 children, a boy and a girl. Nancy's in-laws never pressured her. But deep down, Nancy was suffering. She cried often, she prayed, she fasted, she tried different treatments, but nothing seemed to change. Kelvin, on the other hand, never complained. He waited patiently, he stayed by Nancy's side. And he continued to love her. Every day, Nancy visited Amwa's house and watched her friends' children playing. Each time, she felt worse. She began questioning her own worth. One day, Nancy decided to visit her family. When she arrived and saw her mother, she broke down in tears. Her mother comforted her and encouraged her. Eventually, Nancy returned home. Kelvin was extremely wealthy. He owned several private jets, many expensive cars, and employed numerous staff members. He also owned a large company where he worked. One day, Kelvin decided to travel. Nancy agreed. After he left, Nancy became overwhelmed by her sadness and made a terrible decision. Later, while lying in bed with red, swollen eyes after another night of crying, a dark idea entered her mind. She decided to pretend that she was pregnant. Nancy went to a supermarket and bought a pregnancy bump. Then she went to an orphanage and arranged to adopt a newborn baby. Afterward, she returned home. When Kelvin came back from his trip, he immediately noticed how excited Nancy looked. What happened? He asked. Nancy smiled. I'm 3 months pregnant. Kelvin was overjoyed. He immediately began planning a huge celebration. The party was extravagant. He invited his businessmen, friends, family members, and even Amwa. Amwa was extremely happy for Nancy. Finally, she believed her friend was going to become a mother. Nancy became the heroine of the day. She smiled, she laughed, she celebrated with everyone, but deep down, she felt empty. She knew there was no baby growing inside her. She knew the pregnancy was only an act. Soon, the delivery date she had planned began getting closer. Then something strange happened. When Nancy claimed she was 8 months pregnant, she suddenly began feeling dizzy and nauseous. She went to the hospital. After examining her, the doctor gave her shocking news. Madam, you're actually 2 weeks pregnant. Nancy froze. What? The doctor repeated the news. You are pregnant. About 2 weeks. Nancy could hardly believe it. She was confused. She had pretended to be 8 months pregnant, but now she was actually pregnant, with a real baby. She was happy, but she was also terrified. She didn't know what to do. Eventually, Nancy went to see Amwa and told her everything. Amwa was completely shocked. You need to tell the truth, Amwa advised. But I'm scared I'll lose Kelvin, Nancy replied. Amwa held her hand. You have to tell him. The truth is better than living in fear. Nancy finally gathered her courage. She told her in-laws everything. Then she told Kelvin the truth. She apologized for the lie and begged for forgiveness. Afterward, Nancy began packing her things, convinced that Kelvin and his family would throw her out. But to her greatest surprise, her husband and her in-laws did not kick her out. Instead, they forgave her. They welcomed her back. Nancy was so happy. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she could breathe again. Then the real delivery day finally came. There was no fake pregnancy. No pretending. This time, it was real. Nancy cried out in pain during labor, but Kelvin never left her side. He stayed beside her, encouraging her every step of the way. After some time, Nancy gave birth to twins, a beautiful baby boy and a baby girl. Kelvin felt like the luckiest man in the world. His family was overjoyed. Nancy's in-laws loved the babies and helped take care of them. Amwa also visited from time to see Nancy and the children. 4 years passed. The twins, Dave and Eva, were now 4 years old. They started school and were doing very well. They were happy, playful, and full of life. But soon, everything changed. One cool evening, Nancy received a phone call. The news was terrifying. Her children had been involved in an accident on their way home and had been taken to the hospital. Nancy's phone slipped from her hand. She immediately rushed to the hospital. When she arrived, she saw her children receiving emergency medical care. The sight overwhelmed her, and she fainted. Later, Nancy opened her eyes. She saw Kelvin, her in-laws, and Amwa beside her. They were crying. Nancy immediately became worried. What happened to my children? Nobody answered at first. Then Kelvin finally spoke. Nancy. His voice broke. Dave didn't make it. Nancy stared at him. What? Dave is gone. Nancy felt as though her entire world had collapsed. Eva was still alive, but she remained unconscious. Nancy rushed toward her son, calling his name and hoping for a response. But there was none. Amma tried to comfort her. But the pain was too much. After that day, Nancy became a shadow of herself. She stopped eating properly. She barely spoke. She hardly moved. It was as though she had lost all her strength. One day, Kelvin went to her. He knelt beside her. Nancy, I know you're deeply hurt. She didn't respond. Kelvin continued, but if you remain like this, then who will I go to? He held her hands. You are my strength. You are my wife. You are my love. You are my everything. His voice became emotional. Please come back. Kelvin stayed beside her. He sang softly to her until she eventually fell asleep. The next day, Kelvin, his family, and Amma gathered together. They wanted to find a way to help Nancy heal. Amma suggested that they bring in a therapist. They tried, but it didn't seem to work. Then, one cool evening, Amma went to see Nancy. She sat beside her. Nancy, remember when you received that phone call and they told you that Dave and Eva had been in an accident? Nancy slowly looked up. Amma continued, remember when they told you that Eva was in a coma? Nancy frowned. Then Amma said, remember when they told you that Dave was gone? Nancy's eyes filled with tears. He's gone, Nancy. He's gone. Nancy finally broke down and cried. Amma held her hands. I know it hurts. Cry. Let it out. But you have to keep living. Nancy cried in Amma's arms. 3 months later, Nancy slowly began to find herself again. She started eating. She started talking. She began spending time with Eva. She was still grieving, but she was healing. Eventually, Nancy became herself again. 5 years later, something beautiful happened. Nancy became pregnant again. This time, she gave birth to triplets. With Eva still beside her, Nancy now had 4 children. After everything she had been through, Nancy finally understood something important. Life may bring pain, disappointment, and mistakes. But sometimes, forgiveness can give someone another chance. And sometimes, healing takes time. Nancy had made terrible mistakes. She had lost someone she loved. She had experienced moments when she thought she could never be happy again. But she kept going, and in the end, her family was still together. The end.
Thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe button. It will really mean a lot to me. Thanks. I hope you liked it. Please comment and share. Bye.